And today's gonna be so exciting because I have actually seen this guest speak on stage and she is absolutely captivating. And I know that you're gonna absolutely love her as well because today we're talking about championing creativity, especially in the workplace, especially with our youth. So if you got some time, go ahead and hang out and let me introduce you to the amazing, the wonderful Genein Letford. Hey!
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm blessed and excited to be here, excited to encourage the creativity with your guests.
Oh my gosh, everyone's going to absolutely love you. You guys, she just actually had an amazing conference called Create 2020. How was it? What was it about?
It was the launch. It was like almost birthing a baby where you have this idea, this creative idea in your heart, but just seeing the team come together, seeing it actually be executed well, and then also seeing just the great testimonials of people who found out that they were creative and were inspired to act. I even got two people coming up to me that Sunday afterward and saying, I walked up to this famous trainer and I just felt empowered to just reach out to him and build those networks. And I wouldn't have done it had it not been for the conference. So it's great to hear the feedback and the actions that people are doing because of the conference.
Yeah, like kudos to you for taking an idea that you've had for the last 3 years and actually making it come to life. Because so many people are like, man, I've been wanting to do this. And then I feel like 2020 has been like really the year for everyone that's just, now's the time. It's a new decade. We're going to do it.
Kairos moment, yes.
That's right. All right, so shout out to Tim who is joining us. I just saw Tim over at the social media marketing conference. So, hey, Tim. Tim, we're talking today about championing creativity and why it's so important because that's what's really going to separate you from the sea of sameness. It's also one of the best ways to future-proof your personal brand in the future with all this automation, all these different things that are happening. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, let me give you a quick spiel on Miss Genein Letford. So as a 2015 Charter School Teacher of the Year, Genein is a driving force in student equity access, creative development, and financial literacy. A recent TEDx speaker. What? That's amazing. She believes every child deserves the opportunity to develop their entrepreneurial talents and contribute positively to the community. After almost paying almost $100,000 of debt? That's crazy. She realized the importance of early financial literacy, opportunity recognition, and telling your story of purpose. In addition to directing Alumni 360, she speaks, she writes, and consults on the importance of non-creative development for financial empowerment. You guys, she's brilliant. Like I said, I saw her. Well, so you and I both spoke at UC San Diego, and the name of it was Mission Possible.
Yeah.
And it was for women in business. And you guys, like, she got up there and she explained the importance of creativity, right? I loved how you always like called back to like your early education background and how it was important. And you kept saying like, I'm so sorry we didn't teach you this in school, but it's really, really important. And everyone was just absolutely eating it up. So if you guys are just joining us, go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm here in beautiful, sunny San Diego. Genein, where are you at?
I live in Los Angeles. Right now, I'm at my mother's house in San Bernardino, 909 Route 66. So I am coming from, that area.
I love it. All right, so let's start off with the first question. Why do you think workplaces need to start championing creativity?
Well, you mentioned it in your introduction. We are having a massive, rapid change in what the platforms and the workforce is going to look like. I did some consulting work with PwC, and they have a campaign for their high school kids about the 8 essential technologies, what our children will be graduating into that is basically just changing the game. AI, robotics, automation, machine learning, drones. The list can go on, but we looked at these 8, and I was sitting back in my classroom, and my mind was just like, this is for real.
Yeah.
This is for real. And the one thing that will make us stand apart, the one thing that the robotics really can't copy, at least right now, is our ability to think creatively. And we need to first define that. So I saw the huge issue where there's tons of people who don't think they're creative because we're misdefining it with artistry, And so a lot of people say, okay, well, I can't sing, I can't dance, so I'm not creative. And so that limiting belief right now is shutting so many people out.
Yeah, that's so true. And it was one of those things like, and I could say this as a marketer because I was in an agency and I did program management, which was a lot of data analytics. And I'd always
Mhm.
have these creative ideas whenever we were pitching a new client. And I remember I had that one boss that pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you know what? I love your ideas and stuff, but we have a whole entire creative department that does that. So
Mhm.
maybe, just take a look at the data and let us know how that should steer our decisions." And I was like, "What?"
Wow. So
Yeah.
it's something like that. So first of all, I'm going forward with redefining creativity. To me, it's problem finding
Yes.
and problem solving with relevance, value, and novelty. So that means it can happen in any field,
Mm-hmm.
and in like your data field, which it breaks my heart that you said that because that is basically what's happening in a lot of sections of K-12 education, higher ed, and as you just showed, the workforce. We're
Yeah.
compartmentalizing. You're the creative people. You guys over here, like you're the numbers people, which intuitively says to your subconscious that you're not allowed to be creative, which is going to stunt you in your growth because of the subconscious, power, which
Yeah,
you have.
exactly. I was like, and when I was told that, Janine, I was literally like, okay, do not install that belief in me. It's like you only know me at work. You don't know me outside of work. You don't know how I get down at my daughter's birthday party and how amazing it is.
I should pop in. Surprise! Surprise!
Yeah.
It's going to be a changer, and that's why I am really on the forefront. My degree's in psychology, so I understand that. My master's in education, and in the past 5 years, I've been really studying what it means to be a creative thinker.
Mm.
And even though I say artistry is separate from creativity, I honestly believe that artistry helps people think creatively in non-artist fields. So if you look at the research coming from Michelle Root Bernstein and Robert Root Bernstein, being able to think through your body is a huge creative, a skill. Being able to connect the unconnected, being able to make see relationships and perspectives. When you're in business, if you're able to see from multiple perspectives and to see what other people can't see, voila, there's how you set yourself apart and you go ahead of your competition.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So then you gave a quick definition on how you're redefining creativity. Can you say that one more time for those that are just joining in right
Sure.
now?
Sure. It's the process of problem finding. Creative people are just not solving the problem, but they're the ones coming up with the questioning because their curiosity is at a higher level. But it's the process of problem finding and problem solving with relevance, value, and novelty. And the newness is really what that creation or the creativity aspect is, grounded upon. Of course, there's no new ideas under the sun, but it's the recombination of ideas. So how do you really help people develop that skill of recombining concepts?
And do you find that this is something that most workplaces are now cultivating, or are they expecting their employees just to come in and solve it for themselves? Because we're seeing this big huge shift in people that are coming into the workforce that are new and people that have been there for so long. What are your thoughts?
The workforce has buzzwords every now, like what we're talking about, like, diversity and inclusion and creativity, I believe could be considered a buzzword as of right now. Once again, we have to really be clear of the definition.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in my research, and because I spent 15 years in the K-12 system, it's really looking at what creativity is from the childlike perspective. And there's a few people doing this work. I have somebody on my podcast. Her name is Dr. Natalie Nixon, and she's really looking at the creative aspect of, for me, it's the rekindling of the creative processes that everyone had at birth. Your 4-year-old who's about to turn 5 tomorrow, she is probably the most creative person in your household because she has not been culturized to have that limiting belief on what she can do and how she can see things. And
Yeah.
so I actually have a 2-year-old son, and I joke, I say, I believe he was brought into my life right now where I'm in the midst of my research because I have my own creative genius in front of me to watch and study. So he's my son.
Yeah.
He's also my subject. So it's fun to see how they interact with new information and how they just creatively think.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Okay, so then you had mentioned that in these early years, like with our children, they don't have these people that are trying to give them guardrails, right? Like I've actually had like someone tell my daughter, like, no, you only have to color in the lines. I was like, girl, color wherever you want. I was like,
It's
fill
funny.
the whole page with color. You could do whatever you want.
And see, and you're number one, you are brilliant. I saw you speak, and you just like blew it off the chain. So if you're looking for an awesome speaker on marketing, this is your girl. And number two, you are already aware of things, so you're helping her maintain that freedom. And not a lot of parents or adults really have this awareness because we're just kind of going through the system.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually I'm writing a blog post called "The Sky Is Not Blue."
Oh,
Because my student had, her child was 5, and the child came home with the picture colored and had a check minus, right?
Check
and
minus?
Use appropriate colors. Now, here's where this affects us in our adulthood and in our workforce. This child has been in school for 10 days, has already been graded on, which that should not happen in kindergarten, in my opinion.
No way.
But what is appropriate colors? And so if my child colors the sky in a non-blue color, but yet my son looks out at the sky around 5:30, what is happening? The sun is rising. What color is the sky? It's not blue.
Yeah.
It's pinkish, it's orangish, there's grays going on. So for me to tell my son to only color the sky blue, I'm putting him in direct offense with his experiences.
Yeah.
And so now I'm teaching him not to trust his own data from his senses. And so then he grows up, he goes into the workforce, and he's not trusting his own experiences. He's not utilizing his own senses to the full capacity because we have trained him that the sky is blue, the clouds are white, which they're not always white. If you wake up people at 5:30 in the morning, you will see a completely different experience. So that's why I said our kids operate at a 98% genius level, because they have not yet been conditioned that the sky is blue and the clouds are white.
So what are your thoughts for those of us that we came into the workforce, we were super, super excited, and then we had that one-on-one meeting or that manager or someone who said a passive-aggressive comment during a meeting, like, no, maybe you shouldn't do that. How do you undo that? What are your tips to get people to re-embrace their creativity and their imaginations?
Well, once again, I said my degree's in psychology. So really understanding how the mind works and the subconscious power and also your conscious power. So you have to be mindful of your environment. If you look at the kindergarten classroom, there's colors on the walls, there's movable seating, there's just different print-rich environments. So people used to laugh at me because when I would work in corporate America and I had my cubicle, it was just print rich everywhere. Like people loved coming into my space because you felt a different energy. So I would tell people, be mindful of the space that you're in because it controls your level of creative thinking and your level of your mind's eye, basically.
Yeah.
The way your mind, you see things with different perspectives. And also, I don't want to say there's not too much you can do with as far as the management or authority, but
You're like, I'm just going to undo all of that you just learned in class today.
Yeah. And you know who Seth Godin is, right?
Yes.
This great marketing. And he has this saying that says, you know what? Well, it's not for you. So when I create, as an educator, I knew I wanted to do this event. My boss said no. So the next year I was like, okay, basically I just can't do it with you or in this form. Yeah. So next year, I presented the proposal, and then that's when I won the Heart Vision Teacher of the the Heart Vision Teacher Year award. And then so she couldn't say no for me to go to this event because they were giving me this state award.
Yeah.
And but then she got on board. She started having everyone apply to present, and it was just me creatively changing her perspective of the process.
Yeah.
So I wasn't rude. I wasn't like, I quit.
You're like, excuse me, do you see this award?
But how can you creatively help them think that either it's their idea, and this goes into the negotiation communication aspect. And, later we're going to hopefully talk about the Diamond of Destiny, but I talk about the skill of communication and how it's all under the umbrella of creativity. communication, negotiation, and how to look at things from multiple
Yeah.
perspectives.
See, these are things that I wish, I don't know, maybe it's changed. Like I said, I have a 4-year-old turning 5, going into kindergarten this year. And so I'm so conscious of like, who's her teacher going to be like? What's the classroom going to be like? What is she going to come home and tell me that I have to undo and just be like, no, 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 you're like this little mold of clay. Go play, use your imagination, and all of that good stuff. And so if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about championing creativity, especially in the workplace. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Most people, if they have education reimbursement, they're looking to update their technical skills, whether it's learning something like Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, things like that, because it looks good on their resume. But what most people don't realize is that being creative in problem solving, being creative in your communication to get that level of negotiation is going to be the most impactful in your career. And you actually have this really amazing saying, and I want you to say it. You say, like, you're creative.
Yes. So my epiphany, which was the onset of my Destiny for Diamond, was that your creative health affects your financial wealth. And once again, that's what creativity is, combining two seemingly uncombined concepts together. And my mission is to let people know, yeah, you're focusing on wanting to do well in your career, wanted to increase your finances and do well in that area, but you're not looking at your ability to think creatively, and then your ability to bring your creative ideas to market and to act on them. One small point I want to point out is people need to know that there's 3 parts of the brain: your cognitive, affective, and conative parts of the brain. We know about the cognition because that's what K-12 teaches, right?
Yep.
You learn how to reason, you learn how to read, and how to count. The affect, K-12 is just now getting on that train. Social emotional learning, taking control of your emotional EQ. The business world is really kind of getting on that train within the past 5 years or so. But no one's looked at the conative part of the brain. That is your ability to act.
Ooh.
So, people like you and me, like, we have these ideas, and 9 times out of 10, you see it come to fruition.
Yes.
And then you have that Eeyore person, right? That's the only character that I can bring up who's like, yeah, it's a good idea, but Bob, you and I, we all have that friend.
We all have that person where you're just like, oh my gosh, I've got this amazing idea. I want to tell someone, but not you.
But because they don't do anything, and it's just bother, and like they live their entire lives that way, and that's because their conative abilities are low. But like creativity and like typing, it's a skill. So you can do things to increase your conative ability. You can do things to increase your ability to think creatively and also to act, because a creative idea stuck in the brain is as useless as if you never thought of it at all.
Exactly. So then what are your thoughts on how you can actually train your creative muscle?
First of all, the belief. My son and I walk out that door and we take a deep breath in. Oxygen is important. Your brain needs oxygen. Breathing is important. There's a lot of stuff out there about effective breathing, but that affects your creativity, because if you have no oxygen, your brain's not going to work. So breathe. Number 2, and we say, I am creative.
Ooh.
So we start every day that way, and then we end our day. I was creative today, or what did I create today?
I
what
love
new
that.
idea? So I do that with my son, and right now I said he just turned 2, but from 0 to 10 years old is the mind belief that your belief systems are being solidified at that time. So whatever they learn from that 0 to 10, 0 to 12 years old becomes their belief system for the rest of their life, unless there's some major intervention.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, the free stuff is nature.
Ooh.
Nature is a creative source. Being in, I live in the Santa Clarita area, so there's lots of hills.
Oh, nice.
Open area. If you're in a metropolitan area where it's very just, concrete, just take that extra 30 minutes and get out into nature. It's proven. The research shows that nature's green really just pumps you up in that creative ideation phase. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, when you're waking up, your key ideation phase for creative ideas is you're awake, but you're not fully alert. So if you probably know, like, some of these thoughts just kind of pop in your head.
Yes!
You're like, where did that come from? That's not.
Yeah.
Write it down. write it down, because and I'm not going to get into the whole science part, but your
Why
brain
not? This is the stuff that okay, no, seriously, like
I mean, you gotta buy the book that's coming out. Let's
okay.
that's what
Because like I love all the brainy stuff. Like the more you
I
talk
do.
about like how the brain works and the psychology and the unconscious mind, and I'm just like I am eating it up. I'm loving
Yeah.
it.
So, there's alpha waves, there's beta waves, but right when you're waking up, your brain is operating at a certain wavelength
Yep.
where it's not inhibiting these crazy ideas. And to be fully at your creative best, you have to be able to imagine the big ideas, the big numbers.
Yeah.
And when I deal with my young students, most of them are from low wealth backgrounds. I teach in predominantly, are taught. I just left the classroom in June. But I'm, first gen students, low wealth. And, I was like, could you imagine doing something where someone paid you $500 an hour, as they're currently making 10?
Yeah.
It blows their mind. But I have to push them into that uncomfortable way of thinking,
Yeah,
so
it's
their
like
creativity can do it.
yeah, I mean it's like they don't know what they don't know, right?
Yes, yeah.
And when you think like man, when I was a teenager, the only thing that I really knew coming from my background, because Asian American Filipino, was most people are in the Navy or you're going to be a nurse.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so whenever my college counselor asked me like, what are you going to be, and I was like, I don't know. Like, those are the only two things that I learned. But there was an amazing speaker that came on site, and I imagine that you have this same impact on your audience members as well. But someone comes in and they tell you this story, and then you start to realize, oh my gosh, this is a possibility that I didn't even know existed. And wow, and you realize like, oh my gosh, I could live outside of my neighborhood, my city, my state. Oh my gosh, I could live in a different state, different country. And it's so surprising. It's so powerful when you have those mentors that can help you and push you out of your comfort zone. Because that's exactly what you do, right?
I have to, for my students, for my son, because that's another creative tip, is to get outside of what you know. So something as he's like, when I go, if you and I ever go out to have lunch, and sometimes they have the menus with the numbers. I bring a dice, you roll the dice, whatever the dice rolls on, that's what you get. You have to take time to experience the new, because then your brain, your subconscious, is currently connecting your old experiences with these new experiences. Don't expect to be fully creative if you're not giving your brain and your essence new information to deal with.
I am loving this conversation right now. Like literally, so I was at Social Media Marketing World. It was a 3-day conference. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to do this show, and I hope I have some energy. And now I'm just like, oh, I love this. This is exactly why after I saw you, I was like, I need to have her on the show. So if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about championing creativity, not only in the workplace, but also in education, and why it's so important. Because when you put someone in a box, right, and you put these labels on them of like what they should and they shouldn't do, it limits their creativity and their imagination. And we're just kind of undoing all of those layers of what you can and can't do.
And I was dealing with, okay, well, who's my target market? Who am I going towards with this message? And it could be the 25 to 40-year-old, a women, but I really need my emerging young adults to really get this, the ones who are coming out of high school, coming out of college, and really starting that life. Because when you get a job, first of all, I make sure people have the options. Entrepreneurship is an option.
Yep.
Being an employee is an option. I was trained that an employee was the only option. I think we need to be very mindful of that and how we speak to our youth. The other thing is, if you do decide to go the employee route, there's a job description. If people say, here's the job description.
Here's the job description.
No one ever says, here's the job description. But if you can think of how we can do a better job, or how your job description can be heightened, let us know. You very rarely hear that. And that subconsciously is stunting your employees' creativity, because they're doing what they're told, as opposed to saying, here's what we have. If you can think of any creative ways to make us better, please, you have the floor.
I remember back in the day, there used to be like these little boxes in the office that would say suggestion box. I don't know if that even exists anymore. Right?
I don't, because but we're gonna certain companies are gonna really face that when they see themselves, when they see, I call it the blockbuster moment, where you're going to have people, especially your young people, coming up with these ideas, and
Yeah.
they get laughed out at the room. And no one's laughing at Netflix now, who got laughed out of the room.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
absolutely makes sense. Like if you're not innovating, if you're not coming up with new ideas, or if you're not even shifting to how people are moving in their communications and how they want to get content or how they want to solve their problems, then you're going to become the next blockbuster of your industry. And you don't want that. You don't want that. You want those creative people, the ones that comes in and you're like, wait, you've had 10 different jobs in the past. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing because they have different experiences. And like you said, like going out on those nature walks, you're now connecting all these different neurons and they're able to come up with a creative idea.
Yeah. Another thing that I want to point out is what your daughter is probably doing automatically is she's communicating her imaginative qualities. Once again, because we in our society, we kind of not belittle children, but we don't take them as seriously. But now I think, why I'm positioning myself as a credibility, not let's say expert, but a credibility voice is because I spent 15 years working with people who now we need to look to, to emulate. So looking at your daughter and how she's thinking, having adults re-engage their imagination. So I heard of this man who every phase of life, I think he's passed away, but coming up in the 40s and 50s and 60s, every phase of life, his business always did well because he said he sat in a corner in the dark with a towel over his head and just imagined his industry 10 years from now. So he had to employ his imaginative qualities. So even for you and your business, you taking time, even with your daughter, that'd be kind of fun to see what she says, of just quieting your mind and saying, in 2030, what could social media, even if it's still alive, we don't know, but what could it be? We don't ask, we tell our students to answer what's already being done. We don't ask ourselves and our students, how far can I go? What could I do? If money wasn't an issue, I tell folks that if money isn't an issue, if someone put $5,000 in your bank account to cover your rent, your food, your insurances, if money wasn't an issue, what would you be doing right now? Unlimited.
Yeah. I know what I would do. So here's this thing that I've always done. Like when I know that I've actually gotten like really, really comfortable in my business or really, really comfortable and just like how much money I'm making or something, I usually try to force myself out of that comfort zone. And so throughout the years, like I'm a very physical person. So I've done like Muay Thai kickboxing. I've done like indoor rock climbing because when you are trying to climb, right? And then you got to reach it and you can't reach for it. You just have to jump and you don't know. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Ooh, those nails though.
Yeah, I know. That was only for the conference. But so like, and the only way to reach it is for you to take that leap, right? And just trust that harness is going to get you. And so those are like my favorite hobbies that I like to do. So I would do like the Muay Thai kickboxing. I would do the indoor rock climbing. The one thing that I want to try again, and this was actually done with like a team building exercise, the whole agency. We went to a trampoline park. It was kind of like one of those aerial things. And so you're standing on this pillar. And then what's happening is that like they've got like that trapeze thing. Trapeze swing, I guess you call it, and it's coming for you, and you gotta jump, Genein. You gotta jump. Yeah. You gotta jump. And I was like, man, I gotta get it right on the first time. But you know what? I didn't. And I fell down, and then I was embarrassed because I was there with my coworkers, and I was like, oh man, maybe I've lost their respect. But you know what was really empowering was that they came back and they were just like, try again. Yeah. That's the beauty of it.
There's so many nuggets in there. The first thing is to try again. I believe when we position ourselves as an expert, that's why I'm kind of iffy about using the word expert, because you stop growing when you say you're an expert, and we're a lifelong learner. But when I mess up in front of my kids, I'm like, oh, hey, I messed up. So they can see, even as an adult, you mess up, you will fall. It's about getting back up. Yes. And so, I had a lot of my students say, because, I dealt with stuttering my entire life, had years of speech therapy, and I practiced my TEDx talk in front of my kids. They need to see me struggle And so
Ah.
when they see me where I am in 10 years, they'll be like, but I remember when. And if she can do it, I can do it. The other point that I want to bring up, unless you want to
No, I'm
respond to
just
that. Okay.
you this is why. This is why, you guys. Like, after I saw her in January, I was like, I need you on the show. Like lights, like Lights Camera Live needs to know you and what it is that you do, because everything that you said, I was literally sitting there in the audience and I had my phone out, and it wasn't because I was like looking at notifications. It was like I had my notes app and I was like, oh, Genein is so good. She's so good. I loved it. Absolutely
and
loved
and
it.
um and just going off of that, I was speaking to my pastor about just the hard times, because as starting a business, I left a full-time job. I've taught for 15 years, so my life was run by bells. My salary was regular. I know what I got paid on the first of 15. So as being an entrepreneur, it's a whole new ball game,
Yeah.
but it wakes up your senses, and I feel alive. Of course, I miss my kids, but you got to figure it out. But what I'm saying is just that opens up your creative thinking. Now my brain has to work. You don't think creatively, you don't eat. It's not like a passive, I get paid no matter what, or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like you're coasting. You're
Yeah.
not coasting. You have to
Yeah,
be creative.
you
Yeah.
can't coast. But the other aspect with you talking about you going on the trampoline and taking that leap. Another thing that I need people to understand, and I'm looking to do curriculum about this, and is your ability to think metaphorically.
Mm.
The last time you thought about metaphors was probably in the fourth grade, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
fourth grade standard, figurative speech and language, and using that within your writing. But now I want to petition people to use your metaphorical thinking as far as your creativity development. So when you're on your nature walks, looking at the ants and how they move, saying, or looking at a lion, but you saying the leap, you leaping from this physical trampoline, what does that mean metaphorically? You taking a leap in life,
Yes.
you take yourself to the next level. The ability to connect to, or what I do in my training is I show a picture of a roach, right? And I
Oh.
love that because it gets a visceral response from
Yeah.
folks. Most of us don't have beautiful memories of roaches, right? It's not like a butterfly or a dove. And so, but then I have them look at the roach and say, what life lesson could you extract from a roach?
Ah.
So number one, I do a few things. I'm reframing the roach, because you've spent your whole life being disgusted by this thing. And I'm making you look at it through the metaphorical lens, abstractly, functional wise.
Yeah.
There's just different levels to really get there. And the people who know how to think metaphorically are going to be the ones leading the way in 2020 and beyond.
I love that. I love that because even coming from the agency background, sometimes when you're trying to sell an idea to a client, sometimes just telling them what decision to make isn't going to do it. Like, the one that I always tell my clients is, sometimes when I get my nails done, they'll ask me if I want like the regular manicure or if I want the gels. And I know that the gels is a little bit more expensive, but you know what? It lasts longer. I'm not going to wake up the next day like, oh my God, I have to go back and fix it. And that's what happens when you go the cheapy route.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the Diamond of Destiny.
So I was sitting there, I had these ideas about, the importance of financial education, the importance of our young people getting exposed to entrepreneurial thinking, even if they don't want to be an entrepreneur, but they understand that that type of thinking is going to help them either if they're an entrepreneur. And I thought about John Wooden. I'm a Bruin myself, go Bruins. And John Wooden was a UCLA basketball coach back in the 60s or so. And he has the pyramid of success. And he wrote books about the pyramid. And then if you know the pyramid, you know John, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need something like that. And it was a divine gift of the diamond. And so once again, going back to the importance of metaphorical thinking, how is a diamond made? It's made out of carbon, but the pressure, the heat, but it has to be, polished. It has to be cut. And once it is, it shines bright. It takes the white light, the clear light from the sun, and it can disperse it into all the colors. So that prismatic, you talk to your 4-year-old daughter differently than you talk to your, the CEO of a client you're trying to land, right?
Yeah.
It's that prismatic voice, that your ability to go through different circles and still be at the top of your game, and just looking at the different facets of the diamond. So on my diamond, I have the different elements to make you shine bright. So the elements are communication, curious cognition. So not just focusing on getting straight A's or whatever, but being curious, doing your best in school and learning, but being curious, asking those questions no one else is asking, and continuing your learning beyond the diploma. And then it's collaborative connections. No one tells our young people how important networking and connecting with people actually is to your professional and just your life success.
Yeah.
And compassion. I talk about internal compassion and external compassion. Loving yourself. Hello. No one talks about that. And mental health is a
super important.
But also turning outside your gifts, or turning your gifts to help other people. And then in the middle of I call them the C's, is courage. And you and I kind of mentioned that before, having the courage to take action. And above it is the creativity. So creativity, your C's, and then on the bottom, the tip is what's empowering you to be a thought leader. And really the diamond is about positioning you to be a thought leader and an agent for change. You have your financial empowerment, your entrepreneurial empowerment, and your design empowerment, which is design thinking and the creative process. Like, how do you work through ideas and problems? So anyway, that's the diamond. You have the light coming through, which can metaphorically mean, can go any direction. And really just creating the curriculum around that, writing books around that, speaking about that. And as you saw at San Diego, I passed out a little diamond. This is a pen that like now everyone's giving me diamonds, which is not a bad thing.
I know.
Yes, I had two people in Starbucks randomly come up and give me. One was a diamond triangle ring, which I think was a divine gift as well. But it just shows me that I'm on the right path. So I'm putting all these elements that I think people need, especially our young people need, to live their best life and to be thought leaders and agents of change in their diamond to shine bright.
Oh, I love this. I absolutely love this. You guys, I know this has been like a full geek out session. Everything about creativity. But as most of you guys that are watching, you are marketers too. And it's so easy for us to stay on social media and just be stuck in this echo chamber of like, well, this person said this and this person wrote this in their book, but get outside of that. Take a look at what's happening in other conferences that are outside of your industry and try to figure out like where you can connect the dots, because that's where you're really going to see how things are trending and what's changing. And some people, they only want to talk about like one thing, and I'm like, well, consumer behavior across all verticals is headed towards this specific trend, so how can you be creative in solving all of that? And so I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode as much as I did. So much to learn. Genein, is there anything else that you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, I don't know if you know, but Janet Jackson launched her tour, the Black Diamond Tour. So I'm kind of like riding the waves off of that. And I'll just be, doing an event around that, and then going to go see her for her show, and just reminding everyone that you can shine bright like a diamond.
I love it. I love it. When I first heard you say that, I thought you were going to say Rihanna because of her song.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I play that as well, but Janet Jackson's on tour.
I know, but it's Janet Jackson, right? Miss Janet.
So Janet, if you're listening, if you want to sponsor the Diamond Curriculum Program, empowering folks, let me know.
Yes. And if you guys ever have any events where you are there to empower the youth, and if it's about being more creative, then you know who to find. This Miss Genein Letford. She could go ahead and share her thoughts with all of her background and her experience. I love the fact that you combine education and psychology, and it's so beautiful. It's a nice way to wrap up my week, because it's just like, I love all this art and science. It's amazing. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. All right, everyone. Bye.